remember growing up, sex education was something that was shunned, especially in this part
People
of
don't want to
Africa.
talk
They don't want to
about
talk about it.
it.
Like, it just feels like an itch on the skin. Like when you want to ask, even about period, even about things that happen normally, like within the human body.
So the World Health Organization has it that estimated like every year, 21 million girls get pregnant, 12 million give birth, which means 9 million of them, probably die. They go through like unsafe abortions. And
If parents, the society, could actually curb the curiosity by giving the right information, we won't be where we are.
but some of them get pregnant through no fault of theirs. We're looking at childbirth, looking at abuse.
The saying, curiosity kills the cat. So they want to know, they want to explore, and she was there to take alcohol. So we went from taking alcohol to sex and then pregnancy.
And the implications are actually a lot for them because it's like a child having a child.
And once you're curious, you always find information somewhere. There are always people willing to sell you the wrong things.
Welcome to the Timeline Show. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our Timeline podcast where we discuss pressing issues that shape our world. Today we'll be delving into a significant topic, teenage pregnancy and early childbirth. Our world is filled with uncertainties and challenges, and navigating adolescence can be quite a turbulent journey. But for some, it takes on a different turn when they are faced with the realities of early parenthood, which is what we seek to discuss today and also illuminate a path towards support and empowerment. But before we get into that, we have to do the introduction first. Hi guys, I'm Jennifer and I have my girls with me.
Hello guys, Precious Jacob here.
Hello, Jennifer Kizito here.
How you guys doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Jennifer.
I'm cool.
You people see you people's skin. It's like, what's going on?
I think
You
you're
first
even
tell me
glowing
this.
more.
No, don't play. Don't play with me. Anyways, let's get into it. Adolescence refers to the transition between childhood and adulthood. And it's not like they are adults. Neither are they children. They're just in the middle. We're looking at people in their teen eras,
Yeah,
looking
under
at from
20.
13 to 19.
Yeah.
But this issue that we're discussing, the World Health Organization has it that 10 to 19 are caught in it. Look at the streets. This is not even something that we have to look at the internet to talk about. It's everywhere where you walk around, you see a lot of young girls pregnant.
Yeah, putting the family way.
Why is this even happening? How are they getting pregnant? Why are they being put in such situation at such an early age?
And I feel like this is like a very, very big issue because for bodies like CDC, WHO, UNICEF, verified bodies to be talking about this particular issue, it shines a light on the fact that this is a very, very important matter. And when you check the internet, you see you see the high numbers. And if you notice, you'd see that it's mostly developing countries that have like these very high numbers. I just stumbled on, some statistics, and WHO had like, statistics based by countries.
Yeah.
And you will see that these developing countries, say for instance, you have a population of like 900,000, for instance, and then you see that the number of teenage girls that get pregnant in a year is like 1,000 or 2,000 in a year, like in the whole country. And this is like a big deal. Which brings me to you, my darling Jennifer. So like, why are these numbers like very prevalent in these developing countries, in these, countries like this?
I think one of the things you'll find with those countries is the fact that we have less education and less awareness. So when we come to those countries, because the girls are not aware of what they are supposed to be doing or aware of what sexual intercourse is or the dangers surrounding it, they always engage in these things. So these lead us to girls becoming pregnant at a very early age.
Yeah.
And another thing you'll notice with most of these countries is that they are more violence-based, which means they lack the avenue for education. Most of them, you see violence, abuse, and the rest of them. So when there are such things happen, what you notice is that it affects the educational bodies around those areas. So if there's no education, then eventually these girls will not know what they're supposed to know.
Are we looking at sexual education or like
Just
education in
general.
school?
everywhere.
Okay.
Because you know, when you're not just being educated by school, your parents are coming in, society is coming in. So when we say education, we are talking about generally, because as much as the school has the responsibility of educating these girls about sexual intercourse and the rest of them, society also educates, even though they have their biases, they have one or two things they get wrong, misinformation. They give the wrong information. There are many myths about sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
And these are things that lead most of these girls into teenage
All right.
pregnancies.
So the World Health Organization has it that estimated like every year, 21 million girls get pregnant, 12 million give birth, which means 9 million of them,
Probably die or
probably
something
die. They
happens
go
to
through
them.
like unsafe abortions. And we've spoken about how it affects those in the low and middle income countries, sub-Saharan Africa, Latin
Yeah.
America, and Caribbean. But it also affects those in the urban areas
Yes.
because these numbers is not just limited to them. There was a decline actually at some point in European countries about due to this pregnancy, but still it's still happening there.
Yeah.
So is it like they are inquisitive, like they want to know more about what married people should be doing, or they just the sexual education part of it they're not being taught in schools, or is it like
The
why?
adolescent rush.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of the things that we'll find with the teenage age now, or that period, is curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is why, like I said earlier, education is very, very important. If parents, the society, school is even part of the society, could actually curb the curiosity by giving the right information, we won't be where we are. Because sometimes we tend to like bridge the information, let's not tell them a lot of things. But at the end of the day, just like the saying, curiosity kills the cat.
Yeah.
So they want to know, they want to explore. Let's not talk about, there are many factors.
Okay.
Peer pressure.
Yes.
So your friends are doing a lot of things, and I think I read the story of a girl that went clubbing. So they were doing drugs and the rest of them. So in the middle of the whole thing, she was dared to take alcohol. So we went from taking alcohol to sex and then pregnancy at the end of the day. She didn't even know that she was supposed to take precautions that are necessary. So all these things are all the factors that affect teenage pregnancy. Curiosity is one of them. And once you're curious, you always find information somewhere.
What you're looking
And
for.
if you don't find the right places to get information, you don't meet the right people, there are always people willing to sell you the wrong things. Always, and imagine asking or finding out information from people of your age mates,
Yeah.
people that have limited knowledge. Eventually, you will fall into error.
But information travels. Who then is feeding them this information?
Friends, families, society also.
The media too.
Media too.
Yeah.
So there are so many places they can actually get these information from.
I agree with you because I remember growing up, sex education was something that was shunned, especially in this part
People
of
don't want to
Africa.
talk
They don't want to
about
talk about
it.
it. Like it just feels like a itch on the skin. Like when you want to ask, even about period, even about things that happen normally, like within the human body, like it's just something that is shunned upon and all of that. And then there are like a lot of myths attached to it. Like you just hear people saying that, oh, as long as you're from a single parenting family, or if you have issues in your environment, or if you're in an environment where there are a lot of people that smoke and do all of those stuff, that means it is bound for you to go through that particular stuff. Like it is bound for you to take in, even if most of the time it's not even these people's fault. I mean, insecurity, like there are a lot of reasons. So how do we address these myths associated with it now?
Like we've been saying from the beginning, proper education, proper awareness. If we can get to the point, because I have been in a situation where we had to call teenagers that had been through this, that have gone through teenage pregnancies, or either they've given birth eventually, or
They are still pregnant.
or they are still
Yeah.
pregnant, or the child died in the process.
Okay.
To actually come and create awarenesses in schools, in different conferences or
Yeah.
programs, something like that. They come to talk about it. So if they are aware of not just the process of getting pregnant, but the consequences that come from it, these are all the things that can help curb it. So if we can get to the point where proper education, proper education with witnesses.
Mm.
I would like to emphasize that you don't just tell them if you get pregnant. Let's have people that actually, because just like we said, curiosity kills
Kills
the
the cat.
cat.
Yeah.
So if we're telling them all these things and we are theory, they'll feel like, yeah,
It's
what
just
See, yeah.
But when we call people that have these experiences to actually come talk to them, these are things that should happen in schools, in churches, different places. People that have been rehabilitated and introduced back into the society after the experiences, healed people.
Yeah.
We don't need people that are broken because they
They're still
always,
going through it.
yes, people that have healed, they have gone through the journey. If they can be included in all these institutions, they begin to teach, give proper education. Eventually, we'll have less and less victims.
Now, sorry, most of the reasons that the reasons why teenagers get pregnant, we've
Yeah.
spoken about them being inquisitive,
Yeah.
curiosity and all. But some of them get pregnant through no fault of theirs.
Yes.
We're looking at child brides, looking at abuse. Estimate the global statistics from the World Health Organization has it that 650 million, there are 650 million child brides in the world. And in terms of abuse, 1 in 8 female gets abused every day or every year. And this is something that puts these children in this situation.
Yeah.
Because maybe most of them don't even want to be there, but you're married, and automatically you don't
have
have
to
autonomy
give
over
birth,
your
yeah.
decision on
Yeah.
whether you want to give birth or not. What do you think about that?
When it comes to the issue of abuse and child brides and all this, it's a culture thing, especially I'm talking about the child bride thing.
Yeah.
This is where we can't actually, as much as we want to help, and as much as this is why we are doing this actually, because it's necessary that we have this information out there. But it's very difficult to tamper with culture
Mm.
because it's a culture thing.
Especially one that is legally binding.
Exactly. There are parts of the world where this thing is just part of their system.
Yeah.
And to touch it is practically like
Disabling years of cultural
exactly.
practices.
So when it
Background.
comes to cases like that, it will have to take a revolution to happen in order for that to change. So, but when we talk about abuse, these are, like I mentioned earlier, in countries where violences are prone, that's where you see it. There are countries where they're always fighting, they're always at war. Even we that are here, that parts of Nigeria where wars are or fights or violence are more prevalent. And so you also find this there prevalent. So the same way in other parts of the world, there are places where violence is very prevalent, and you will find this more. Also, apart from the violence, there are families, societies, people that just don't on the people that just take advantage of children or teenagers and then put them in this way. So it's a cause of concern because it shows that something's wrong with people. For someone to actually pick a teenager, something is
Yeah.
actually wrong
Yeah.
somewhere. This is where psychology and the rest of them comes in place. So it's a very serious matter.
Yes, let's not even forget insecurity.
Yeah.
For instance, I think how many weeks ago some children were kidnapped from school, and most of them were girls. 2014 Chibok girls, a lot of them came back pregnant. We don't even
Yeah.
know where some of them are. So like this is. Some of them even came back with children, and they probably like do not even know. Like you said, for me, TVS, they do not even know they are left from their right yet. So imagine having another child to,
Yeah.
to take care of when you don't even know where you're going to. You don't know what you're going to have for breakfast. We're talking about the psychological effects, for instance. Now, let's bring the mental part into it. Let's forget about it. Okay, let's not exactly forget, but we have in cognizance that it has a lot of like effects on them. Their physical health and all of that. Some of them go through like a lot of health implications.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the mental health to begin with. What are some of like the mental issues that these people have to battle with?
Okay. We'll talk about depression.
Okay.
Imagine being pulled out from your normal niche, your experiences, what you're supposed to be going through normally.
Yeah.
From the ages 10 to 19, we're expecting you to be thinking about what you will be when you grow up,
Yes.
and you are changing. In fact, you have enough time to decide
To
what
switch.
you want
to be a doctor,
You want to be a
today,
doctor,
tomorrow
you want to be a
lawyer.
nurse, lawyer,
Yeah.
an engineer, end up as a mechanic, whichever one. But you have enough time. But because you are not going through the normal transition, and you know that the thing that comes with teenage pregnancy is Stigma,
Yes.
discrimination. Let's not forget about that most times they drop out of school.
Yeah,
Of
it
course.
happens.
95%, it's not an exaggeration. It's only on very few occasions that you'll find pregnant people in
School.
school. So they drop out of school. They will know how. So because of this, they end up having depression. These we are still talking like we have depression. Most of them actually end up psychotic. We talk about people that end up being violent because they just can't understand what's going on. These are your formative years,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden things are changing faster than you can actually place it. You have 9 months, that's if you eventually give birth, for your life to automatically change. Now, these changes happen for normal adults, like adults, and they have a lot to say about it. They have a lot of experiences. Most of them come out of it actually um having all sorts of relapse issues.
Yeah.
And imagine a
A child.
teenager
Yeah.
coming out of it. We have depression, some end up psychotic, some end up um violent, some end up even having suicidal
So what do you mean by
ideations.
psychotic?
Violence, like, well, that's where we talk about things like bipolar disorder
Okay.
and the rest of them. So these are all things that come out from just being pregnant
Alone.
alone.
And then we'll now look at the childbirth part of it when they've given birth.
Yeah.
We'll be going on a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking more about how important support system is for teenage mothers as well as those who have given birth. So stay with us. The first season of Timeline is on. The journey so far has been amazing and impactful. The world needs change agents. The world needs me, you, and all of us. Join me on Timeline as we continue to share important information and discuss social issues that would help someone out there. Let's continue to advocate for critical changes on issues affecting our world today. And together, amplifying messages that provide answers to burning questions. Our journey continues as we create awareness and promote shifts in health matters and other social issues that will alleviate personal and communal struggles, guided by international laws and best practices. Join me on Timeline exactly 7 p.m. every Friday on Youth Network's YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and turn on the notification button. You can become an agent of positive change by dropping your comments in any of our episodes as a contributor or as a professional. Join the conversation respectfully. Welcome back. Let's pick up from where we stopped. During the course of our previous discussion, that's before the break, we're discussing teenage pregnancy and the effect it has on them. And one of the effects is, early childbirth. And this is not just because most of them, give birth. They experience a lot of issues along the way. Some of them die. Some of them are faced with unhealthy abortions. But then there are people that actually deliver. There are people that actually give birth. And the implications are actually a lot for them because it's like a child having a child. So let's talk about health, Jennifer.
When we talk about health, we'll have to talk about the physical health and then we talk about the mental health. As regarding the physical health, there are many things that result from this early childbirth. Talk about hypertension, we talk about preeclampsia. We can even talk about most of them are more prone to cervical cancers.
Okay.
Because I've seen many situations where as they get older, because of the experience they had earlier, they get to a point where they have cervical cancer. In fact, you have larger number of people who gave birth early having cervical cancer than people who gave birth, adults who gave naturally at a very good age. So these are all the health, physical health issues that result from actually giving birth quite early.
Most of them, when they give birth, they are meant to experience some time of, healing, recuperation. But for some of them that don't even have the necessary means to take care of themselves, talking about people that are on the streets, because some people don't have it easy. Some people get pregnant from their parents' home and their parents still take care of them. Some of them send them out. But we're looking at those that are like in the streets, they give birth, they can't even have the necessary things. Their body is not strong enough to do a lot of things. And to even add to what you said about their physical health, is actually part of the reasons why most of these girls end up disabled. It's the fourth leading cause of disability. There are different causes. I think the WHO listed 5, looking at tuberculosis, mental health disorders. But maternal condition is part of the reasons. And then this is the second cause of mortality. So their physical health is actually at stake when it comes to giving birth. Because people that are 25 and above, they give birth and they experience physical issues.
Yes. Not
How
talk
about
of children.
yes, children that have not even experienced full organ development, full like body development.
Yeah.
Now the mental health, like you mentioned earlier, shed more light on that, please.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, we have depression. We have postpartum depression actually, where these people actually give birth. They don't recognize they actually give birth. They reject their babies. There are situations. I think I've been a couple of years back. I was in a situation where I went to the hospital to see someone, but we met another patient. The little girl, not up to 18 years, had actually given birth to a girl, a very beautiful baby, but she had rejected the child because she couldn't remember that she actually gave birth to the child. The child had to like spend 3 months before the mother came to the realization, the therapy, the drugs that are necessary for her to then get better, to start taking care of the child. So during those 3 months, the baby had to feed on normal formulas that you get from the market. So these are all the things that come postpartum depression. Let's talk about the stigma that comes leading to isolation, leading to people not actually seeing themselves as worth it, low self-esteem is another issue. They don't believe they can be loved. They can't believe that life can go well for them. They don't believe they can do life anymore. So they believe at that point, life has stopped for them.
So what about the children? Like when they've already, because you said some of them actually give birth, some of them actually give birth, some of them die in the process, some of them even go to another option of, having abortion. What about the children now that have already been given birth to? Most of them go through a lot of mental
Especially those
problems.
that are faced with hardship.
Exactly, especially those that have been abandoned, because like the one that you said now, like the mother could not even identify the child. Imagine that the child go to like a very old age, like 6 years or something. That child must definitely be going through like some mental problems.
Yeah, because if we look at it, one of the things that happens after that childbirth is poverty, especially if everybody has deserted you.
Yeah.
So the child will not be getting the necessary things that others get.
Yeah.
So he has to put up with all the struggle, the hardship. And we will now talk about being being a child to a single parent. There is a lot of stigma around that. So the child will not be able to integrate properly into the society. He always feels that life is not worth it. I don't look like others. There will always be that vacuum somewhere. So for some parents actually walk away from these children. That's why you see some children under the bridge. These are all the things that result from.
I want to ask, this postpartum depression, is it restricted to those that had faced a hard life when they were pregnant? Or maybe even those that teenagers that got pregnant and they're actually from comfortable homes, do they experience it too?
Everybody, all age range, experience it. And then even whether you had a hard life or a soft life, it can happen. But why we are being particular about the teenage age is because their organs are not fully developed. So they are more prone to postpartum depression because imagine the pain of childbirth. It can trigger something. The wiring in the brain, pain that you're not prepared for. If people that are older, mature adults actually experience postpartum depression, even though we have them on the fewer side because they prepare for pregnancy. Imagine someone being pregnant abruptly. Just all of a sudden you're pregnant and it's just at a period where you're trying to get your life together, your formative age. These days you are just undergoing puberty and then this happens. It restructures your entire system. So this postpartum depression happens across, but it's more prevalent amongst teenagers.
Let's talk about the educational implication of it. Most of them, they give birth, their physical health is already at stake. They can't even, do things. They can't move around. They're still trying to heal. Their mental health is they're already facing a lot of mental health problems. They can't go to school. In fact, most of them even drop out during the course of their pregnancy. So see, their education is already being attacked, due to this issue of theirs.
Especially
they don't
stigma.
go to school yet. So these problems that they are facing, how does it contribute towards their educational like achievements, as well as those that even have to drop out? Talk about like how their education gets their education, they face a lot of problems education wise.
Okay, one of just like I mentioned earlier, the pain of childbirth. Some of them experience issues mentally.
Mm.
This can lead to slower learning abilities. Person can be disabled, learning disabilities. The person can develop it as a result of this pain that comes with childbirth. You have people who they can't read.
Hmm.
They get slower in doing things, assimilating things, because this formative stage where they're supposed to be developing their organs of
Right,
learning,
yeah.
being sharp, at that point it has been truncated by the experience. Their body has changed.
Yeah.
Some of them, when they now get this was some of them that actually make it to going back to school, they experience stigma
Yeah, from their peer, from their
Yeah.
from
teacher.
their peers, from their teachers. Society frowns at you and all those things. Imagine going to school and you're carrying a baby and a
Yeah.
baby too.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So people will look at it like this girl, like you're too loose, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are all some sorts of discrimination that comes with that, leading these people to value. Most of them just don't like education anymore. They will prefer to go and do other things than go to school because they don't want to go through the whole process.
Yeah, teenage pregnancy is actually like an early childbirth can be a clog, in the wheel of progress in terms of society, because now that for those, that have children in the streets or in unhealthy environments, we'll see their children forming part of the large number of out of school children that we have in society. I mean,
Yes.
Nigeria has the highest number with 10 million. But this societal, like a lot of things will keep going wrong in society because of the fact that there is no enough education.
Yeah.
Now that leads us to the preventive strategies as well as intervention, because we cannot tell them, okay, we'll tell you don't do this. But for those that have done it, what are the help available for them? Let's start with the family. The family like has a role to play in terms of supporting them. What are ways you can recommend for the families to provide a safer environment for these children?
Okay, since it has already happened, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't show the baby back to where it
Okay.
came from.
Yeah.
So we have to get to the point of I think the issue we have is that families or the society don't get to the point of acceptance.
Mm.
They always stop at the point of, wow, this has happened. And they don't get to the point where this is a challenge. We get to the point where we have accepted that there's nothing we
What
can
can be
do
done?
about it.
Yeah.
We can only move on from here, creating solutions, finding a way to help mitigate the issue and the rest of them. So family has to get to a point where they accept that it has happened. Let's forget the isolation. Let's look for a way. I've seen families that the mothers had to go through um, like the mothers of the mothers that gave birth
Oh,
had to now take up the responsibility of taking care of the child, why the person that gave birth to the
yeah, the
child
teenager.
is now reincorporated into the society. It helps lessen the burden
Mm.
because now the person knows that she's not alone. There's somebody with
Yeah,
her.
she has a backbone.
Exactly. So the person goes back to school, integrate into the society, starts as alongside taking care of the child, but now the burden is lesser on her because people are there for her.
What of like for their children, like the ones that have not gotten pregnant, what are ways they can actually advise their children so that they will not be in such situations?
Proper information. There is no need
Yes.
lying. There is no need because in our
Covering
own
up.
part, exactly, our
Yeah.
own part of the world, if we have myths, if they touch you, you get pregnant,
Yes.
and then somebody touches you, nothing happens. So you feel like they are liars, and then you want to
Want to
explore
explore.
further. So proper information. Families should be the first to actually expose the child to sexual education even before school.
Yeah.
Because if they listen to the right source, they will not have to bother about what other people are telling them because someone has opened up to them, giving them the proper information. Because if along the line they find out that you lied, they lose their trust in you.
Yeah.
They don't feel like anything you're saying is worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Then what about the healthcare providers, for instance? Like that story you were telling us about the lady who wasn't able to recognize her.
Yeah.
What is the role now of the healthcare providers to, make sure that these people have like adequate mental health services?
Okay. So I think this is where we lag in most places, not just Africa, other places around the world too. Because we don't have an adequate system to deal with this. Such people who give birth early, they should be there should be a period of time where they are actually kept and taken care of. They should be given proper education. This has happened. Move on.
Yeah.
Life moves on. Tell them something. Like, just the point is therapy. That's just the whole conclusion
Yeah.
of the whole matter. And then we are not talking about the physical challenges that come with it. How do we address this? The right professionals. That's why there should be rehabilitation centers set up solely for this purpose. Since these are prevalent in these areas, we take it up as a project that if this happens, we are not like saying that it should happen, but
Yeah.
if it happens, then we should make provisions for taking care of these people. Um, Medical provisions, psychological provisions, all the things that are necessary. Put them into place.
Even accommodations for
Yeah.
people that are out of school and all of
Yes,
that.
yeah,
Earlier, you mentioned that some girls, came back pregnant. That was for Chibok
Yeah.
girls. And now, recently, there's some people that also came back pregnant
The
when they were
Kaduna
abducted,
girls.
and they're like, they're not going to put them in society like that.
Mm.
That they have to, give them a lot of rehabilitation,
Yeah.
which means the government too has a role to play
Yeah.
in doing that, as well as the society. And we've been hammering on how the society creates a lot of stigma, isolation. What's now your advice to the people, like to the society? I mean, people make up society still, but your advice to them towards eradicating the stigmatization that these pregnant teenagers face, as well as those that have given birth.
Accept, like I said earlier. We just have to come to a place where we just know that this, we should just accept it. The society has to, it's a mindset thing. So this where we have to change the way people think by giving them proper information, educating them, telling them that this is not the end of life actually.
Yeah.
And they have to accept these people. That the more they push them to a place of isolation, discrimination, the more they are creating a cycle that never ends.
Mm.
Because you push them out and then you give them the child and they are on the streets. It leads to further violence. The child can grow up to be an armed robber and they'll still come and fight you that is in the society. So we should provide a safe place for anybody who eventually comes into this kind of situation to actually find peace and grow well and reintegrate back.
All right. Acceptance. I like the fact that you have been hammering on acceptance. It shows that most of the issues that these people face would be cut short if the society accepts it. If the teenager, if the parents of this teenager, the family, the healthcare provider accept it. Yes,
Teachers.
they should not be in that situation at all. But those that are already there, we need to show our support to them. Which is why the World Health Organization has a lot of sustainable development goals in terms of development of everyone. But they have some that are highlighted towards childbirth as well as reproductive rights. We have the SDG target 3.7, which ensures universal access to sexual and reproductive healthcare services, including for family planning, information and education, and the integration of reproductive health into national strategies and programs. If the World Health Organization can create a goal, to make sure that these teenagers' reproductive rights are protected, what is now stopping you from actually showing your support and empowering these teenagers? Which is why it's very important that not only prevention strategies should be put in place, intervention should also be put in place, because most of these teenagers, they go through a lot. Some of them through no fault of theirs, looking at abuse, or looking at those that are, insecurity, kidnapped, and they come back pregnant. Well, for those two that are also in that situation, due to the fact that they were curious, this does not mean that we have to hang them. We still need to show our support to them so that next time there will be no repeat pregnancies, as well as there are people that are not in that situation too would also learn how to, protect themselves from situations like that. And this is where we put a comma to our conversation. Yes, a comma, because the conversation goes on in our comment section. Keep it respectful as usual. Follow us on our social media platform at Healed Network. I'm Jennifer Egenti.
I'm Precious.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we'll be seeing you soon.
Bye.
Bye.